last March 2024 when the feds, in LA, in Miami, in New York, they enacted these raids on Diddy's home, and it's been nonstop.
Me and Shan talked on the phone a lot, chatting with TV people, and I felt like I was trapped, like a slave for bad things. After days of super intense moments in the courtroom with Cassie Ventura, Didi's ex-girlfriend, speaking out, the trial took a big turn today. Jonathan Audi finally spoke up, and everyone watched him as he told every scary detail about the horrible things he said happened in what he called Didi's torture room, where people were locked up, hurt under bright red lights, with loud music to hide their screams. In a super quiet moment, Audi stared at Didi and said with a sad, bitter voice, "I was his slave for bad things." Every word he said felt like it broke the shiny image of the powerful music boss. Meanwhile, Didi sat quietly, hiding his face with his hands, like he wanted to escape the truth being told so bravely for justice. The details were read out loud, shocking the courtroom. Lots of witnesses said Didi covered his face whenever the worst parts were mentioned. So, what exactly did the witness say? Is this the final blow that could bring down Didi's whole world? Listen closely to the key witness, called a slave, whose words shook the courtroom and the world. The federal courtroom in Manhattan felt heavy, full of big feelings, when an important witness stood up, called Didi's slave. Everyone went quiet. Jonathan Audi, who used to be seen as weird or crazy, became the trial's main focus when Cassie Ventura swore Audi was forced to do terrible things many times. The mood changed fast. His story, which people ignored or hid before, came back up. In 2018, Audi caused a scare at a hotel owned by Donald Trump in Florida. He was arrested after shooting a gun. Back then, he said he was Didi's slave for bad things, but people thought he was making it up. But now things are different. Since the police raided Didi's house, new secrets keep coming out. A charge for selling bad services was filed. All eyes are on Jonathan Audi, in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffed, walking into the courtroom like a ghost from Hollywood parties he wishes he could forget. Audi, once a dancer, once called unstable after the Doral incident, is now a key witness in a trial that could end Didi's world forever. Judge Subramanian watched him closely, then glanced at the accused. "The court wants the truth, not drama," he said. "But if a truth was hidden, today it must come out." Didi sat still, lips tight, surrounded by his lawyers, cameras, and the cold stares of the crowd. The king of bad boys finally seemed trapped on his own throne. Audi took a deep breath, eyes red, voice shaky but strong, and started, "I'm here to tell the truth. Sean Combs' Didi ruined my life. He's a monster. In 2018 at the Trump International Hotel, I shot a gun, but not because I wanted to. It was him who messed with my mind, controlled me. He talked about some weird technology. I don't know what it was, but I heard his voice in my head, telling me to do awful things to hide his crimes." The courtroom shivered. Some people whispered crazy ideas. The judge called for order. "Mr. Audi, stick to clear facts. You say Mr. Combs controlled you. Do you have proof?" Audi answered with big feelings. "Proof? My broken life is proof. He made me a mind slave. He threw fancy parties, gave me weird drugs, and I started hearing his voice in my head. He told me to keep his secrets. Secrets about trafficking, about girls forced to do things. He threatened my family if I didn't obey." He paused, then went on with a creepy intensity. "It wasn't a party. It was a ritual, a ceremony to pick me as a slave for bad things." He described a scene: pink lights, loud electronic music, models barely dressed, drugs handed out like candy. I thought it wasn't real, but it was. I was forced to do bad things in front of 10 people. Cassie was there laughing. I thought she was a victim, but she was helping him. He talked about threats, money sent to keep him quiet, papers he was forced to sign. Emily Johnson, the prosecutor, showed proof of money sent from secret companies tied to Didi. A $5 million silence agreement signed by Audi was shown. "I signed because I was scared. I thought I'd never escape." Didi's lawyer, Brian Steele, tried to make Audi seem untrustworthy, calling him mentally unstable, but the judge wouldn't stop him. "The court sees no proof he's lying, and if he's telling the truth, it's shocking." Audi told of a night he woke up naked, tied up with Didi filming him with his phone, smiling, saying, "You're mine now." The courtroom held its breath. Didi tried to stay calm, but his legs shook. Audi finished, "I almost killed myself. I wrote a letter but remembered others like me, suffering quietly." I knew if I didn't speak, he'd keep going, using music, money, and power to force, film, hurt, and silence others. His voice almost broke, but he stayed strong. Right after, Didi stood up fast, angry, saying quietly, "This is silly. I don't even know this guy. He's lie." Down every word. A sketch showed Sean Diddy Combs sitting straight, eyes cold, but hands tightly clasped, showing quiet stress. Jonathan Audi walked into the courtroom and started shocking everyone with details about the so-called Freakoff parties. Audi said these weren't just parties. They were twisted gatherings where he controlled everything. There were tons of people, young women, men, celebrities, even big names. I didn't know all the victims, but I heard names like Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Leonardo DiCaprio. Victims were drugged, forced to do gross things. I saw baby oil used, not for skincare. He mixed it with some resin, put it on bodies to make feelings stronger, and reapplied every 5 hours. Audi's voice got louder. Baby oil was poured into unmarked bottles all over the room. He and his helpers used it to trap people. I saw young girls, some looking too young, forced to drink something, then covered in oil. They couldn't fight back. I counted at least 20 people in one night, forced to do private things to please Didi and his guests. I was one of them. Audi looked down, voice choked. The judge stepped in. "Mr. Audi, these are big claims. You say 20 people were forced. Can you give names, exact dates, or proof?" Audi looked up, eyes still hopeless. "I don't remember exact names, Your Honor." He never let us introduce ourselves, but I remember the date, August 2017, at a Star Island villa. There were cameras everywhere, but I'm sure he erased everything. He was always careful. He called his parties fun parties because that's where he let his bad side loose. Audi kept describing how some of Didi's villas weren't just fancy places, but were built on purpose for creepy fun, messy parties, forced private acts, drugs, and bold humiliation. He shared scary details about special sheets to soak up blood and body fluids and strong air fresheners to hide smells. The room's smell, he said, had to feel like a forest or a special spray because Didi wanted the place to smell exactly how he liked. A tense quiet filled the courtroom as Audi told how he was forced to join these creepy games with sheets soaked in pee and other fluids. These raw details clearly made many jurors uneasy. Some looked away, unable to keep watching Audi, but his calm way of telling the story made it even scarier. This became the prosecution's strongest weapon, showing a picture of repeated planned abuse, not random or accidental acts. Even more surprising, Jonathan Audi's ex-wife spoke up unexpectedly. She said Audi still fears Didi today, and that what he went through left deep mental scars. This outside story strengthened the idea that Didi didn't just control, but threatened his victims for years. Then came the defense's fierce counterattack. While Jonathan Audi's story cut through Didi's power like a knife, the defense team fought back. They knew if Audi's story wasn't shaken, Didi's whole defense would fall apart like a burning house of cards. The main lawyer, with silver hair and sharp eyes like a surgeon's knife, stepped up and opened a thick file on Audi's troubled past. "Your Honor," he said with a hint of scorn, "we're hearing claims from a man who once stormed the Trump National Doral Hotel with a semi-automatic gun, firing shots at the ceiling, yelling nonsense about God and the government. Is this a trustworthy witness? A man already called mentally unstable?" Whispers rose in the crowd. Audi looked down for a moment, then looked up. "Yes," he said, "I was a mess, crazy, scared, lost because of what I went through. But that's not proof against me. It's what happened because of the nightmare Mr. Combs and his team put me in." He looked right at the jury. "I survived that shooting. No one else was hurt. I was arrested. But have you ever wondered why a normal person would act like that? I'm telling the truth, and no one believed me then. Now I'm saying it again. I don't want pity, I just want to be heard." Didi's lawyers smiled, but their smiles hid worry. They wanted to make Audi the weak link, a crazy person, a distraction hiding the truth, a man investigated by the FBI who vanished from the news like he never existed. But the problem was the truth wasn't alone anymore. Didi's ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and another victim who sued him in late 2023, told awful stories that matched Audi's almost perfectly. She too talked about secret rooms, drugged nights, filming and threats. Though Cassie and Audi never met, their stories agreed on the scariest parts. Hidden cameras in fireplaces, bodyguards behind doors, silence agreements signed like normal papers, and especially that chilling phrase they both remembered. "You're mine!" Not only did Cassie and Audi's stories line up, but they were backed by Philippe Pinet, Didi's main assistant from December 2019 to December 2021. Pinet called Didi a bossy figure, using his power to demand loyalty and control. He shared a bad night where he was forced into private acts with a woman at a secret party called Freakoff. Words he never forgot. "Prove your loyalty, King." His lawsuit said this pressure was part of a twisted, violent culture where assistants had to give not just their time, but their bodies. Pinet also said he often saw rooms cleaned after wild, days-long parties with alcohol, weed, ketamine, baby oil, and lube as props. Bloody candles, strong smells, and tribal music created a wild vibe he called dark rituals that erased all moral lines. These stories, once ignored in the criminal case, now became key, showing a pattern of supposed ongoing, planned behavior. In the courtroom, the jury stopped looking at Audi with doubt. They listened, starting to piece the puzzle together. One witness might be wrong, but when many stories match on details no outsider could make up, that's when denial starts to crack. Court watchers followed the trial like a live chess game. The prosecution played with cold skill, not showing all their moves at once. They were patient, starting with Audi, the witness everyone expected to be discredited, then showing money proof, bank records from secret companies in the Cayman Islands, photos from deleted servers, emails between managers and bodyguards about a weekend cleanup plan. They weren't just building a case. They were showing a crime pattern, a full chain from recruiting to using, controlling, and threatening to buy silence. Each step had witnesses, papers, logic. Audi wasn't a liar anymore. He was the first to dare reveal the plan of a whole machine built to control bodies and minds. Didi, who once ruled stages, charts, media, and rivals, now seemed lost, swept away in a flood, and for the first time, no lifeboat could save him from his bad deeds. 4 big reveals about torture rooms came up. The talk that followed about these so-called rooms sent a shock through the whole courtroom. What was once seen as a messy celebrity scandal was no longer just backstage gossip. It became way darker and scarier. Prosecutors focused on these spaces, saying they weren't just rooms for grown-up fun, but traps built on purpose for abuse, control, and power taken too far. They made clear it wasn't random or a short-term weird lifestyle. It was a system, a planned setup, hiding in the shadows of the music world's bright lights, but really a web of human traps. According to federal agents, these rooms weren't separate. They were part of a big secret network that sent lots of people to a nightmare while showing off wealth and fame on the outside. What shook the jury was when Audi's earlier words, from a witness once doubted, started matching exactly with Cassie's and other witnesses. Jonathan Audi said, "I call them torture rooms," looking at the jury, because no other word fits better. There's no agreement, no limits, just fear, control, and punishment. For a moment, the courtroom was almost silent. No one took notes, no one breathed loudly. Even Didi slowly clasped his hands, like he felt the trial's most dangerous part had just begun. Audi said these rooms were made not just for bad acts, but for total control. Doors were soundproof. There were blind spots for cameras where nothing could be recorded. Fingerprint locks even controlled temperature and lights, like someone wanted to rule every feeling from body reactions to a victim's instincts. He paused, then said slowly, "I know because I was locked in one of those rooms once. I screamed, I threw up, then I went numb. That's when I realized the goal wasn't pain. It was to erase the person inside me." Prosecutors jumped on this to build their case, showing building plans for a Los Angeles mansion once owned by a company tied to Didi. The plans showed 3 basement rooms with no windows, separate air systems, and 2 blocked emergency exits. A tech expert was called to say this setup wasn't for normal use. They never said torture out loud, but the whole courtroom felt it. Audi added that these rooms were often called Studio X or the Silent Room, names that sounded cool but hid the truth.